Hey folks, Wally DM here, and today we're going to build an Order of the Scribes Wizard. Now, if you're not familiar with Order of the Scribes, they are a very book-oriented class. Now, what they aim to do is to fill their spell books with as many different types of spells, in particular spell damage types, as you can, because one of the main focuses of this class is to be able to change the damage type of our spells. And the only way that we can do that is we have to have spells that have that damage type in our spell book and of the appropriate level. Now with this character build at level 10, we're going to be able to just waddle right into a group of enemies, and we can 0.0 drop a maximum damage 54 point fireball that is going to do lightning damage to everyone around us, and we are going to be totally immune. But we have to work up to that, and we are going to take a 2-level dip in Tempest Cleric, and that's going to help us get there. So let's get started with our character build. This is going to be a first level Blue Dragonborn by the name of Torden Lyn. So here we are on D&D Beyond with our first level character, Torden Lyn. Now, I have chosen a Blue Dragonborn, and we'll be using Fizban's Treasury of Dragons for the new Dragonborn statistics. So right off the bat, you can see my ability scores. I have decided to use Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to put that +2 and that +1 modifier wherever I see fit. So we end up with a 17 intelligence because we're a wizard, and we'll get that up to 18 at level 4. And then dexterity and constitution are both going to be 14. Wisdom, I needed to have a 13 because we are going to take a 2-level dip into cleric, and then charisma 9 and strength 8. Unfortunately, I did not have enough left over after the point buy to invest in those more. Now, with the combination of our wizard class and our background, we end up with the following proficiencies as far as skills are concerned, and that is Arcana, makes sense because we're a wizard, History, Nature, which also makes sense because we are going to focus on thunder and lightning damage, so that is going to be a nice little feature. And then Perception, so those are going to be our 4 skills. And again, I chose Blue Dragonborn, so let's look at a few of the racial traits that are going to come along with this selection. We're going to be a humanoid with 30 feet of movement, and we're going to be medium size. Now, the breath weapon is a little bit different than in the player's handbook, so now we have our breath weapon, which is lightning, and it can be used twice per long rest. It's going to be a 30-foot line that is 5 feet wide, and of course, whoever is in the way of that can make a saving throw to take half the damage. At level 1, that is going to be a DC of 12 and a D10 of damage, and that takes an action in order to use our breath weapon. We also get dragon resistance because we are a chromatic dragonborn, and that's going to be a resistance to lightning. Now, we'll talk about this more when we reach 5th level, but the chromatic warding is one of the abilities of the chromatic dragons. And starting at 5th level, as an action, we can channel our draconic energy to protect ourselves. For 1 minute, we become immune to the damage type associated with our chromatic ancestry, and once we use this trait, we can't use it again until we finish a long rest. So at 5th level, we're going to be able to become totally immune to lightning, and as mentioned in the beginning, we're going to use that to our advantage, but more about that when the time comes. Now, before we dive into the back end, we currently have an armor class of 12, so I'll probably invest in mage armor, which will give us an armor class of 13 plus our dexterity, so we'll have an armor class of 15 as long as mage armor is up, but without mage armor, we're looking at a 12. We also have 8 hit points, and one of our first level wizard abilities is Arcane Recovery. Once per day when we finish a short rest, we can choose an expended spell slot to recover. The spell slot can have a combined level that is equal to or less than half of your wizard level rounded up. So of course at first level, after a short rest, we can get a first level spell slot back. So that is very handy for us. And of course at 4th level, we can get either 2 first level spell slots back or a 2nd level spell slot. That's Arcane Recovery. Now, what I would like to do is I'm going to jump into the back end of D&D Beyond because I would like to choose my spells there and, of course, give you a few ideas into what I'm thinking. So as a first level wizard, we do get 3 cantrips, and I have chosen Chill Touch as my main damage dealing cantrip because I don't really want to use any type of a bow or a crossbow. So when we have to do normal attacks without using spell slots, it's going to be my necrotic damage through Chill Touch. And then I've also chosen Mage Hand, which is a very nice cantrip to have that is non-combat related. And then for my final cantrip, I chose Mind Sliver, where we can drive a disorienting spike of psychic energy into the mind of a creature that we can see within 60 feet. And if they fail an intelligence saving throw, they're going to take a d6 of psychic damage, and they're going to have to subtract a d4 from their next saving throw it makes before the end of our next turn. So I can actually have a way of setting that up where we can have that d4 come off of a future saving throw, but we'll talk about that more in the later levels. Now, as a first level wizard, we get to add 6 first level spells to our spellbook. Now, keeping in mind at second level, we're going to get our ability to be able to change damage types. So we're going to want at least one spell in our spellbook that has a multitude of spell types. And for us, I've actually picked 2 because they're both fantastic first level spells. And that's Absorb Elements, where we can use a reaction to gain resistance to a damage type. And those damage types are going to be Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder. Then I've also chosen Chromatic Orb. It's one of my favorite first level damage spells for combat, and we get to throw a sphere, and it's going to do 3d8 damage if it hits, and that damage can also be Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Poison, or Thunder. We also have Detect Magic, which is a fantastic ritual spell. Definitely would encourage you to pick that up at first level. And Mage Armor, of course, we're definitely going to need for our armor class, which is going to expend a first level spell slot right out of the gate. And then I chose Magic Missile. Now, this is dealing force damage, but we can alter it starting at second level and make it any type of damage that is equivalent to what we have in our spellbook. So I could do magic missiles that are fire darts or thunder darts or lightning darts, but more of that at second level when we get there. And it also looks like I chose Fog Cloud. I did not mean to do that, so I want to take Fog Cloud out. Now, I feel okay with my offensive spells. I've got Chromatic Orb, and I've got Magic Missile. If I wanted to stay on theme, perhaps I might go with, like, Witch Bolt, because I am a Blue Dragonborn, so be able to naturally throw out that D12 of lightning damage would be cool. But at second level, I'm going to be able to change my damage types anyway, so I am okay with this. Now, this is a good opportunity to pick up maybe one of your favorite utility spells. Perhaps it's Charm Person or Disguise Self. I'm also going to steer clear of Find Familiar because our spellbook is going to become like our familiar at a certain point. So I don't want to get attached to a critter and then I'm going to have a spellbook as well. I just want to focus on my spellbook because it's going to be my familiar organically through the Order of Scribes feature. So I'm going to pass on that as well. I really thought about Featherfall here, but I think Shield is probably the appropriate choice, especially with our low armor class. Now, of course, just because we have spells on our spellbooks doesn't mean that we get to prepare and be able to cast those all the time. As a wizard, we have to wake up in the morning, we prepare our spells, which is going to equal our intelligence modifier, which is currently a +3, plus our wizard level, which is level 1. So we can have 4 first level spells prepared. So what I have decided to do, if we come back over here on the front end of D&D Beyond, is I have chosen to prepare Absorb Elements, Chromatic Orb, Mage Armor, and Magic Missile. And at first level, we only get 2 spell slots. So 2 first level spell slots. So one of them is probably going to be used to cast Mage Armor, which is going to last for 8 hours. And again, it's going to give us a better armor class, but we do have that Arcane Recovery, so we can get a few spell slots back at a later date. Now, ritual spells are very nice because we don't have to have them prepared. As long as they're in our spellbook, we can cast them if we spend 10 minutes to do so. And that's where Detect Magic's going to come in. And then once again, you can see my cantrips up here. We have Chill Touch, which is going to be a +5 to hit. It's going to do a d8 of necrotic damage. And we have Mind Sliver, which is going to be our intelligence saving throw. Now, one way that I like to use cantrips is if for some reason I am in melee combat, you're going to have disadvantage on those ranged attacks like Chill Touch. So instead, we can use an attack like Mind Sliver and just force the opponent to make a saving throw. Now that's a pretty simple level 1 character with regards to Torn, but at level 2 we're going to be able to pick our Order of Scribes, so let's go ahead and level up and see what awaits for our character. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with our level 2 Blue Dragonborn Torn. And at second level wizard, we have chosen to become an Order of Scribes. Now, the Order of Scribes gets 2 features at second level. The first one is Wizardly Quill. As a bonus action, you can magically create a tiny quill in your free hand. The magic quill has the following properties. The first one, the quill does not require ink. When you write with it, it produces ink in a color of your choice on the writing surface. The second, the time you must spend to copy a spell into your spellbook equals 2 minutes per spell level if you use the quill for the transcription. And the third one, you can erase anything you write with the quill if you wave the feather over the text as a bonus action, provided it's within 5 feet of you. Now, the color of ink and being able to erase what we wrote is very good and fun ideas for role playing. But that second bullet point, the time spent to copy spells into our spell book, is absolute gold. So with most wizard classes, it takes a lot of time and a lot of gold to be able to transcribe spells into our spell books, whether that be from scrolls that we found or from opposing spellcasters' spell books or things of that nature. And with this, even a third level spell, let's say we find a scroll with a fireball on it, it's only going to take us 6 minutes to transcribe that into our spell book. That is absolutely amazing. We can do this in a dungeon, or as we are adventuring, we find a scroll, we can quickly put it into our spellbook during a short rest or something along those lines. So this is very good with the Wizardly Quill. Now, I do want to mention that you need to be in tune with your dungeon master. You need to let them know that your character has this desire to put as many spells into their spellbook as they can. Now, for the purpose of demonstrating on this video, I'm only going to add spells to our spellbook that are allotted with each level up, but ideally with advancing your character in levels, hopefully the Dungeon Master is going to give you access to spells, at least a couple extra for every level that you gain. That would definitely be the best case scenario, and hopefully your DM will work with you and provide you with all the extra spell goodies. Now, with the Wizardly Quill in mind, I want to jump back to the creation of this character, and I want to show you the background that I selected. And I chose Quandrix student. Now, this is a Strixhaven background, and the reason that I chose this was because it was one of the only ways that I could get the tool proficiency calligrapher's supplies. So for those of you not familiar, calligrapher's supplies treat writing as delicate, beautiful art. We are able to produce text that is pleasing to the eye using a style that is difficult to forge. And with having calligrapher's supplies, there's a few things that you could possibly attempt, such as identifying the writer of a non-magical script. You can determine a writer's state of mind. So perhaps you found a letter, you could tell if they were frantic when they wrote it, maybe, or if they were calm or something like that to help solve a mystery. You can spot forged text and possibly forge a signature. And of course, that's going to be up to the DM to set those DCs for you. But I felt with the Wizardly Quill, and since we are pretty much going to be a writer, just writing, putting all of these spells into our spell book and having the quill and things like that, then it made sense that I had the calligrapher's supplies and actually have this beautiful handwriting and all of these abilities that deal with quills and writing. Now, keep in mind that the Strixhaven backgrounds do come with a Strixhaven feat, and I opted not to take that. I believe it's the Quandrix Initiate feat, and I chose not to do that because I just think that the backgrounds in Strixhaven are a little bit too powerful for a normal build, but talk to your dungeon master. Maybe they'll allow you to have all of the good stuff as far as being a Quandrix student. But again, I chose this one, and I get a language, I get the proficiency in nature, perception, and calligrapher's supplies. Now, the Wizardly Quill is fun and all, but we're here for the Awakened Spellbook. This is the heart of the Order of Scribes. Using specially prepared inks and ancient incantations passed down by our wizardly order, we have awakened an arcane sentience within our spellbook. While we are holding our spellbook, it grants us the following benefits. You can use the book as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. When you cast a wizard spell with a spell slot, you can temporarily replace its damage type with a type that appears in another spell in your spellbook, which magically alters the spell's formula for this casting only. The latter spell must be the same level as the spell slot you expend. So what this is saying is, as long as a spell in our spellbook mentions a damage type, and that is going to be like fire, cold, lightning, thunder, or it could be bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing. But as long as that spell and they are the same level is in our spellbook, then we can alter that damage type. So let's take magic missile, for instance. If we wanted our magic missile to be cold bolts or acid bolts, we could do that because we have chromatic orb in our spellbook. And then just the opposite. If we wanted our chromatic orb to be force damage, as in from the magic missile, then we could do an orb of force damage, which isn't normally a damage type that the chromatic orb could do. So now this ability isn't going to be the most powerful, and it will get around some resistances, but there's not a lot of resistance types in D&D. I mean, a lot of monsters are going to be, or at least resistance to poison or fire, so you can change those spells. So it's not going to come up a lot, but it's going to be super cool. And especially since we're going to be a Blue Dragonborn, I'm going to roleplay this character. I'm going to change a lot of stuff to lightning and thunder damage, but having the option to just switch it around to everything is just, it's fascinating to me. I really like this from a flavor and a theme and a role-playing perspective. The third point of our Awakened Spellbook, when you cast a wizard spell as a ritual, you can use the spell's normal casting time rather than adding 10 minutes to do it. Once you use this benefit, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. So if we wanted to cast Detect Magic as an action, we can do that once using our Awakened Spellbook. It's not going to cast as a spell slot, and we don't have to have it prepared, and it's not going to take us 10 minutes. A very nice feature. Another one that I can think of is Identify. If we're in a hurry to figure out what a magic item is, we can use this ability and we will know it. Or Comprehend Languages is another good one. Now let's continue with our Awakened Spellbook. If necessary, you can replace the book over the course of a short rest by using your wizardly quill to write arcane sigils in a blank book or a magic spellbook to which you are attuned. At the end of the rest, your spellbook's consciousness is summoned into the new book, which the consciousness transforms into your spellbook along with all of its spells. If the previous book still exists somewhere, all of the spells vanish from its pages. So one of the most frightening things for a wizard is to lose their spellbook, because every morning they need to wake up and they need to prepare their spells, and they can't do that without their spellbook. So if we go over to our inventory section here on D&D Beyond, you can see that I have, for the cost of 25 gold pieces, I have 2 blank books. They weigh 5 pounds a piece, and now if I lose my spellbook, as long as I have these blank books with me, I can take a short rest and I can have my spellbook back. Or perhaps if I'm in a city or a town, I can just go to our local bookshop, I can pick up a book, and I can transcribe all of this and replace my spellbook. So if you've ever been in a situation where you've lost your spellbook, like, oh, and had to do all of these things to get it back, the Order of Scribes Wizard is definitely for you, because now you can replace it in the blink of an eye. Now let's take a quick peek at our spells, and we don't need to go in the back end of D&D Beyond for this because I have added them and prepared them. We get to add 2 more first level spells, and again, for this character build, I'm only going to add spells that we definitely get. Hopefully our Dungeon Master is giving us plenty of opportunities to buy spell scrolls or find additional spell books to add to our collection. But the 2 first level spells that I chose was a ritual, which is Identify. Being able to identify magic items is a very nice spell to have. And Silvery Barbs. I know a lot of you love this spell. I know Dungeon Masters love it. It's a very powerful first level spell to have, and honestly I probably should have taken it at first level, but here we are. And this is actually using our reaction within an area of 60 feet. You magically distract a triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. You can then choose a different creature you can see within range. You can choose yourself, and the chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes within 1 minute. A creature can be empowered by only one use of this spell at a time. There are several ways that we can use this. We can use this in combat, we can use this out of combat for ability checks, and we can use this for saving throws. So let's take, for instance, we're in combat, melee combat, which we definitely don't want to be in that as a wizard, but maybe a goblin snuck up on us and hits us with a club. We can use our reaction, cast silvery barbs, and make that goblin roll a second d20, and hopefully they will miss on that. And then in turn, we can then give one of our allies, maybe our barbarian or fighter or paladin, advantage on their next attack roll. Or we can save that for ourselves. Maybe there's an enemy spellcaster, a goblin mage or something to that effect. Then we can save that and we can give ourselves advantage on a future saving throw. So this spell is extremely powerful, and honestly, if you have access to it as a wizard, a warlock, a sorcerer, what have you, there's really no reason not to take it. I really like it, and it will fit our character very well. So that's all I have for you for level 2. We're going to do some crazy things coming up, so stay tuned for our level 3 character. So our character is now 3rd level, and I have opted to multi-class into Cleric. Now, a few reasons that I did this. The first is to gain some armor proficiencies, so we don't have to have mage armor prepared and waste the 1st level spell slot on that every day. And the second is because we're going to select Tempest Cleric, and that is going to synergize very well with our Order of Scribes Wizard, and it's going to allow us to maximize the damage of a lightning or thunder-based spell once per short rest. So let's dig in and see what we have going on. Again, 1st level Tempest Cleric. Now, with regards to armor class, we are now sitting at an armor class of 16. I have equipped Tordenlin with a scale mail, and that's going to be about as high as we're going to be able to go, because chainmail and heavier armor than that are going to have a strength requirement of 13 or higher, and we only have a strength of 8. Now, we can use a shield, and that shield will take us to an armor class 18. But the way that I'm envisioning this character is our spellbook is going to be our spellcasting focus, and I envision Tordenlin holding the spellbook with both hands, or holding it one hand and doing somatic components in the other. So if you feel comfortable with envisioning your character holding a spellbook in one hand, being able to do the somatic components and the material components here, and having a shield in the other, then by all means, go ahead and do that, and you'll be sitting at an armor class of 18. Now, in addition to getting the armor, shield, and martial weapons proficiencies as a 1st level Tempest Cleric, we also get an ability called Wrath of the Storm. We can thunderously rebuke attackers. When a creature within 5 feet of you that you can see hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to cause a creature to make a dexterity saving throw. The creature is going to take 2d8 lightning or thunder damage on a failed save, and half as much on a successful one. And we can use this feature a number of times equal to our wisdom modifier, a minimum of once, regaining all on finishing a long rest. So we can use this once per day. It's not that really big of a deal, doesn't really fit into our plans, but it's a nice little ability to have in a pinch. Now, when we multi-class into Cleric, we also get a few Cleric spells, but just as a reminder, with our Awakened Spellbook, in order to be able to change the damage type, it does have to be a wizard spell. So we are not going to be able to change the damage types on our Cleric spells. But with that in mind, let's pop over and take a look at our spells as they are here as a 3rd level character. With becoming a Cleric, I have chosen a few cantrips. Guidance, that's one of my favorite in the game, where we can help a creature or ourselves with an ability check. I've also chosen Thaumaturgy, which I thought would be kind of neat. We can do a lot of different things with like our eye colors, or causing harmless tremors, or doors to open and close. So that'll be a lot of fun. We can have like little lightning bolts flash in our eyes or something like that. And then the 3rd one that I took was Light, because as a Dragonborn, we don't have dark vision, and up until now, we have been using torches or lanterns. So now we can have the Light cantrip and cast it on something and carry that around. Now, as we scroll down a little bit more, we do get a couple of Cleric spells that we're always going to have prepared, and that is going to be Thunder Wave. And Thunder Wave is going to be a fantastic one for us. It's on theme with our character with thunder damage, and if we do get surrounded in melee combat, there is a chance that if we cast Thunder Wave that we can push them away from us so that we can get away and get out of melee combat. The other one is Fog Cloud, which is a nice spell to be able to obscure an area, whether to sneak by something or trying to get out of the way. Now we also get to choose 2 additional spells to prepare every day, and I have chosen Healing Word. I think that is one of the best healing spells in the game because we can do that at a distance. And I've also chosen Shield of Faith. We can use our bonus action. It does require our concentration, but it gives a target a +2 to their armor class. So if we're going without our shield, that'll give us an armor class of 18. And if you're playing with the shield, then that will give you an armor class of 20. Not bad for a squishy wizard. Now, one more additional note, you can see that we have 2nd level spell slots. We actually get 2 of them at this level, but we don't have any 2nd level spells yet. Now, that is going to affect our Awakened Spellbook ability, so we cannot change the damage type of spells that we are going to upcast. We're always going to be a level behind with regards to spell progression. So if I wanted to cast a Chromatic Orb at a 2nd level spell slot at this current level, I would not be able to change it to force damage. And if I wanted to cast Magic Missile using Thunder or Lightning or something like that, I'm not going to be able to do so because I don't have 2nd level spell slots in my book, and I'm not actually able to cast 2nd level spells at this level. But that's okay because our spells are still going to be fairly powerful with regards to upcasting them at 2nd level, and we can do a Chromatic Orb that can do lightning damage. It'll do 4d8 instead of 3d8 at first, and as well as Thunder Wave. So that's all I have for level 3. We're going to dive into that lightning and thunder theme and get those maximum damage at least once per short rest at level 4. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with Torden Lynn, our Order of Scribes Wizard. Now we are going to take a 2nd level in Cleric, so that'll be a level 2 Cleric, and that is when we're going to get our Channel Divinity. So for those of you not familiar, Channel Divinity is a divine energy that we can use to fuel magical effects, and we get that once per short rest. Now one of the default ways of using this is to turn undead, but then each different type of subclass of Cleric gets their own Channel Divinity that they can use. And here is the one that we're after and the entire reason that we multi-class into Tempest Cleric. Our Channel Divinity is Destructive Wrath. Starting at 2nd level, you can use your Channel Divinity to wield the power of the storm with unchecked ferocity. When you roll lightning or thunder damage, you can use your Channel Divinity to deal maximum damage instead of rolling. Now again, we can use this once per short rest, so depending on how many short rests you have in your game, we could potentially use this 2 or 3 times per day. Now let's take a look at our spells, and let's take our Chromatic Orb for instance. So let's envision that we are in ranged combat and we threw out a Chromatic Orb with the lightning damage type and we hit a target. So normally that is a 4d8 of damage. We could then use our Destructive Wrath Channel Divinity to maximize that. So we don't even need to roll. That's going to be an automatic 32 points of lightning damage. So our Order of Scribe Wizard is going to be able to 2 or 3 times per day just put out this destructive energy of lightning or thunder damage, and we are totally going to build around that and the ability of our Awakened Spellbook to change damage types. This is going to be a lot of fun. Now, as a 2nd level cleric, we do get one additional ability called Harness Divine Power. We can expend a use of our Channel Divinity to fuel our spells, so as a bonus action, we can regain a 1st level spell slot. Now, of course, we're only going to be able to use this if we haven't used our Channel Divinity yet. So if we haven't been in combat and maximized that lightning or thunder damage with our Destructive Wrath, and we're getting ready to take a short rest, then being able to use Harness Divine Power to regain a 1st level spell slot is going to come in handy. That's it for our character for level 4. We're going to go Order of the Scribe Wizard from here on out. So let's take an advanced Torden Lynn to level 5. So here we are on D&D Beyond with our Blue Dragonborn Order of the Scribe Wizard, Torden Lynn. Now, being a 5th level character, even though we multi-class, we still get some benefits of hitting 5th level. In particular, our proficiency bonus is now a +3. And with regards to our cantrips, such as Chill Touch now does a 2d8 of necrotic damage, and it's now a +6 to hit. Being that we're a Dragonborn, we also have our Lightning Breath weapon. We can now use this 3 times per day, and we can do a 2d10 of lightning damage. Now, we're technically only a 3rd level wizard, but we are going to get our 2nd level spells, and we get to add 2 of them to our spellbook. Again, hopefully through the campaign or wherever we're playing this character, the DM is providing us with extra scrolls and opportunities to add spells to our spellbooks, but we are going to look at least the minimum amount of spells that we're going to be able to add. And for 2nd level spells, there are 2 that I chose, and you'll notice one is not prepared, and that is going to be Dragon's Breath. And the reason that I have chosen Dragon's Breath is because it has 5 different damage types. It has acid, cold, fire, poison, and lightning, that of the chromatic dragons. So we have that in our spellbook. That means any spell that we cast as a 2nd level spell, we can change to any of those spell types by using our animated spellbook. Now, the other 2nd level spell that I chose is Shatter, and Shatter is going to be huge for us. This is a sudden, loud, ringing noise, painfully intense, that erupts from a point of your choice within range. Each creature in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on that point must make a Constitution saving throw, and a creature is going to take 3d8 of thunder damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. And if we cast this as a 2nd level spell, we can change that thunder to fire, cold, poison, or lightning. Now, we can also upcast Shatter as a 3rd level spell, but again, we won't be able to change the damage type because we don't have 3rd level spells abilities yet, but we do have the slots. But that is where our Tempest Cleric is going to kick in. So if we decide to use our Cleric's Channel Divinity to maximize the damage done by a Shatter spell, then we can do so. So we can cast that as a 3rd level spell, and we're going to get a 4d8 or 32 points of damage to everyone within that sphere of thunder damage. So 2 very good spells. Again, we're adding 1 to our spellbook just so we can get the damage types, and then I'm also picking an offensive one to be able to swap those damage types out if the situation calls for it, and just have a lot of fun with this character, blasting things that are in the way. So that's all I have for us at level 5. Let's take our first ASI improvement, or a feat, at level 6. So Torn Lin is now a 6th level character. We have 4 levels in Order of Scribes Wizard and 2 in Tempest Cleric. And I have decided to go with a feat at this level, and my absolute favorite feat is Fey Touch. So we're going to take it here. That's going to give us an intelligence of 18, and by increasing our intelligence, that's going to help some of our spell save DCs, and we can have 1 additional spell prepared each day. Now, with Fey Touch, we get the Misty Step spell, which allows us to teleport 30 feet away with just using a bonus action. This is by far probably one of the most useful spells in the game. I absolutely love Misty Step. Anytime I can get it for a character, I will usually do so. Now, with Fey Touch, we also get to pick a 1st level spell from the Divination or Enchantment School of Magic, and I have chosen to get Hex. Now, we don't have a lot of things that are using our bonus action. Of course, we can have Misty Step, and there are a few others, but if we wanted to use our bonus action, we can cast Hex once per day without expending a spell slot. And when we do this, we curse a creature that we can see within range, and until the spell ends, we deal an extra d6 of necrotic damage to the target when we hit it with an attack. On top of that, we can also choose an ability, and the target that was hit with Hex will have disadvantage on ability checks made with that chosen ability. If we're going into a large combat battle with all guns blazing, then we could potentially go bonus action to use our free use of Hex, which is going to give us a d6 of necrotic damage. And then we could upcast something like our Chromatic Orb, which you can see here as a 3rd level upcast. It's a +7 to hit and 5d8 of whatever damage we choose. And of course, we're going to choose lightning damage. And when we do that, we can use our Channel Divinity to maximize that out. So we could potentially do 40 points of lightning damage and then toss in an extra d6 of necrotic damage from the Hex. And of course, that Hex is going to last for as long as we hold concentration. Now, I also am able to pick up 2 additional second level spells, and the 2 that I went with was Detect Thoughts. I thought I needed something a little bit non-combat oriented, and when we manifest our spellbook here in a couple levels, I plan on using Detect Thoughts from a distance where I'm not even in the area, and we'll explain more of that in a little bit. And the other spell that I chose was Flaming Sphere. Now, we wouldn't be able to use this in conjunction with Hex because both of them require concentration, but I like the idea of changing the damage type on Flaming Sphere to have this ball of lightning that just keeps bouncing into characters and causing damage for as long as we can concentrate on it. But both of those spells seem to be a lot of fun. That's all for our character at level 6. We're going to go up to level 7 and get some 3rd level spell slots. So Torden Lyn is now a 7th level character. We have 5 levels in Wizard and 2 in Cleric. Now, I wanted to begin in the back end of D&D Beyond because we're going to pick our 2 3rd level spells. These are the first 3rd level spells that we've added to our spellbook, even though we've had 3rd level spell slots. Now, the one that I'm going to add is a 3rd level spell called Glyph of Warding. And I wanted to look at the back end of D&D Beyond because I am not going to have this prepared ever. But the reason that we are choosing Glyph of Warding is because it mentions different damage types. So in order to use our animated spellbook to be able to change the damage types of our spells, number 1, we have to have a spell in our spellbook that is of the equal level, and number 2 is they have to mention those damage types. And with Glyph of Warding, you can see down here under Explosive Runes, it mentions acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. Now, the other 3rd level spell I am going to have prepared every day, and that is going to be Fireball. So here we are on the front end of D&D Beyond, and since we have Glyph of Warding in our spellbook, we can now change the damage type of Fireball to thunder or lightning damage. So at this current level, we can use our Channel Divinity from the Tempest Cleric, we can maximize our Fireball, and we can do 48 points of lightning or thunder damage. Now, we do have a 4th level spell slot that we can upcast some of our spells, but again, because we don't have any 4th level spells, we are not able to change Fireball to thunder or lightning damage. Even though we can upcast Fireball, it's just going to be fire. Now, if we decided to upcast one of our other spells to 4th level, such as Chromatic Orb, which can do lightning, or Shatter, that can do thunder, then we can maximize those. So a Chromatic Orb upcast in 4th level with our Channel Divinity can do 48 damage to a target. So that's our level 7 Order of the Scribes Wizard. Now at level 8, we're going to get the ability Manifest Mind. That's just going to be absolutely amazing. So here we are. Torden Lyn is now a level 8 character, and this is pretty much where we want to be. We're going to have a lot of fun at this level. Now, this is where we get the feature that is my favorite of the Order of Scribes, and that is the Manifest Mind. So with Manifest Mind, we can conjure forth the mind of our awakened spellbook. As a bonus action, while the book is on our person, we can cause the mind to manifest as a tiny spectral object, hovering in an unoccupied space of your choice within 60 feet of you. The spectral mind is intangible and does not occupy its space, and it sheds dim light in a 10-foot radius. It looks like a ghostly tome, a cascade of text, or a scholar from the past. Now for me, I'd probably have either a miniature blue dragon or whatever god that I chose. As far as a Tempest Cleric, if I chose Thor, for example, I'd probably have a miniature version of Thor. Now, while manifested, the spectral mind can hear and see, and it has dark vision within a range of 60 feet. The mind can telepathically share with you what it sees and hears. Whenever you cast a wizard spell on your turn, you can cast it as if you were in the spectral mind's space instead of your own, using its senses. You can do so a number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. As a bonus action, you can cause the spectral mind to hover up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you or it can see. It can pass through creatures but not objects. Now, the spectral mind stops manifesting if it is ever more than 300 feet away from us, if someone casts a spell magic on it, or if the awakened spellbook is destroyed, if you die, or if you dismiss the spectral mind as a bonus action. Once you conjure the mind, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of any level to conjure it again. So there is a lot to unpack here. Now do keep in mind that it is our manifest mind that has the dark vision, and it is actually telepathically telling us what it can see and hear. So we don't actually get the dark vision ourselves. But the way that I see this playing out is in particular is right before a large combat. Maybe we know where some folks are, we're preparing to go in, and now our wizard can stay in a safe area because we can move our manifested mind, our little miniature Thor or Blue Dragon or whatever it is, and we can send it into combat with the rest of the party, or perhaps send it out in advance to drop a lightning ball before combat even begins. Now, this is also going to work very well for us with regards to concentration spells. So if we send our manifest mind into combat and we are safely 120 feet around the corner where we can't be touched, then we can have our flaming sphere up and we're not going to have to worry about losing concentration. Or perhaps we use one of the new 3rd level spells that I chose, Summon Undead, where we can call forth an undead spirit. It manifests in an unoccupied space that we can see within range. That could be us as a wizard, or perhaps in a range that our manifested mind, our spellbook, our little miniature Thor can see. And then we can choose a ghostry, putrid, or skeletal. And then we have this summoned undead that can help fight for us. And again, we don't have to worry about losing concentration as long as our wizard stays at a safe distance. Now, in addition to combat-oriented uses for the manifest mind, I could also see this in non-combat situations. Perhaps there is a meeting of nobles and we want to interrupt it. We could send our manifested mind into the room and we could drop another spell that I picked up at 3rd level, the Stinking Cloud. So it's going to be a 20-foot radius sphere of yellow nauseating gas, and everybody in the area is going to need to make a Constitution saving throw or they're going to be poisoned and start retching and reeling. So that would be a lot of fun, and we can do that at a distance. We don't have to be anywhere near the Stinking Cloud. We just send our little manifested mind in there to disrupt the meeting. And I did mention before too that we could do Detect Thoughts. So if we have that spell memorized, and we could send our little manifested mind in there and cast Detect Thoughts and hopefully get some action going that way. But do keep in mind that our manifested mind does give off a glow or an aura, so it's not going to be sneaky or invisible. It can be seen. That's all I have for us at level 8. Let's get some 4th level spells at level 9. So here we are back on D&D Beyond with Torden Lynn, our 9th level character that is an Order of Scribes Wizard. Now at 9th level, our proficiency bonus is now a +4, so that is going to help with our spell save DCs and our ranged spell attacks, but it's also going to give us a 4th use of our Manifest Mind ability, in which we previously discussed we can cast spells through our manifested mind, and now we can do that 4 times per long rest. And of course that also gives us an extra use of our lightning breath weapon as far as being a dragonborn. Now we have already had 4th level spell slots prior to this. That is an effect of multiclassing, but now we actually get to pick 2 4th level spells. And the 2 that I chose are Black Tentacles and Elemental Bane. Now Elemental Bane is not that good of a spell in my opinion, but it is a spell that mentions damage types such as acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder, and in order for us to change damage types with our animated spellbook, we have to have a spell like this in our spellbook to be able to do so. So now let's take a look at Black Tentacles. This is a 4th level spell that's got a range of 90 feet and it affects a 20-foot area. And again, it's going to require concentration. So this is a really good spell that we could use and cast through our manifested mind. So it works like this. Squirming ebony tentacles fill a 20-foot square on ground that we can see within range, and for the duration, these tentacles turn the ground in the area into difficult terrain. When a creature encounters the affected area for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, the creature must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take 3d6 bludgeoning damage and be restrained by the tentacles until the spell ends. A creature that starts its turn there in the area and is already restrained by the tentacles is going to take 3d6 of bludgeoning damage. Now, a creature restrained by tentacles can use its action to make a strength or dexterity check against our spell save DC, and on a success, they will be able to free itself, and that is going to be a DC of 16. So where I like using this is, again, we'll send our manifested mind, our little miniature Thor, or whatever it is, into an area first, and then we'll use black tentacles to make that area difficult terrain for them, and then the rest of the party can go in and combat can begin. So I think these will be two fun spells for Torden Lynn with regards to combat, and also to provide us with the damage types that we're going to need. That's all I have for level 9. We're going to take a feat at level 10, so let's see what's next in store. So Torden Lynn is now a level 10 character. We have 8 levels in Wizard and 2 levels in Cleric. So one of the things that we get to do at this level is we get to pick a feat or ability score improvement. Now there are plenty to choose from and a lot that I had considered, but I actually ended up going with Metamagic Adept. So Metamagic Adept works as follows. You've learned how to exert your will on your spells to alter how they function. You learn 2 metamagic options of your choice from the sorcerer class. You can use only one metamagic option on a spell when you cast it unless the option says otherwise. We also gain 2 sorcery points that we can spend on these metamagic options. Now the 2 that I chose were Quicken Spell. So with Quicken Spell, we can cast a spell that has a casting time of 1 action and spend 2 sorcery points to change the casting time to a bonus action. And then also is Subtle Spell, where we can spend 1 sorcery point to use or cast the spell without any somatic or verbal components. So having these metamagic options, even in a finite resource, can prove to be very valuable. Now this may seem like a little bit of a far-fetched idea, but the scenario that I envisioned is our wizard is surrounded by enemies and can't get away. Tries to Misty Step and then is surrounded by more and just needs to point blank put this fireball here just to clear the way. Now, if we do that, we're going to take some damage, but what we can do instead is we can use our action to activate our racial trait. Yes, we're going to come all the way back to this. At first level, we discussed it, and that is our chromatic warning. So we can use an action, and for 1 minute, we can become immune to lightning damage. Now that we've used our action for that, we use our metamagic option to point blank drop a lightning ball. So we're going to use the fireball spell, and this will be using a 4th level spell slot, and we're going to use our channel divinity, which is going to be a total of 54 points, change it to lightning damage right on us, boom, and just send it in this big radius, 54 points to everything in the area of lightning damage, and we're not going to take a single point because we're immune to lightning damage. And that was just one of the epic scenarios. It may never ever happen if I play this character, and metamagic feat might have been a little bit of a waste at this point, but it was just too much fun to pass up, and that's why I included it on this build. Let me know in the comments section below what feat I should have taken at this level, or what you would do in my situation. Now I do get 2 more 4th level spells. The first one that I took was Wall of Fire. I think this is a very good spell in its own to put up a barrier or to engulf an entire area in this wall. But now we can have this a Wall of Lightning or a Wall of Thunder. So I thought that would be a lot of fun. And the other spell that I chose is Greater Invisibility. So as long as we're concentrating on this up to a minute, we can become invisible and we can cast spells while we're invisible. So I like this option as far as being able to stay hidden with our greater invisibility and then still being able to send our manifest mind out there to throw chromatic orbs or fireballs, thunderballs, lightning balls, whatever it is that we see fit. Now that's going to be as far as I'm going to level this character up, but before I go, I do want to look at a few more of the Order of Scribes abilities. So let's start with the level 10 ability, which our character would get at level 12, and that is Master Scrivener. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can create 1 magic scroll by touching your wizardly quill to a blank piece of paper or parchment and causing 1 spell from your awakened spellbook to be copied onto the scroll. The spellbook must be within 5 feet of you when you make the scroll. The chosen spell must be of 1st or 2nd level and must have a casting time of 1 action. Once in the scroll, the spell's power is enhanced, counting as 1 level higher than normal. You can cast the spell from the scroll by reading it as an action. The scroll is unintelligible to anyone else, and the spell vanishes from the scroll when you cast it or when you finish a long rest. Going back to our wizardly quill ability that we got at 2nd level, now we can start writing magical scrolls that include spells of 1st or 2nd level, and I like this to be able to save some spell slots. And then finally, at 14th level, we get One with the Word. Your connection to your awakened spellbook has become so profound that your soul has become entwined with it. While the book is on your person, you have advantage on intelligence arcana checks as the spellbook helps you remember magical lore. Moreover, if you take damage while your spellbook's mind is manifested, you can prevent all of that damage to you by using your reaction to dismiss the spectral mind, using its magic to save yourself. Then you're going to roll 3d6. The spellbook temporarily loses spells of your choice that have a combined spell level equal to that roll or higher. For example, if the roll's total is 9, spells vanish from the book that have a combined level of at least 9, which would mean 1 9th level spell or 3 3rd level spells or some other combination. If there aren't enough spells in the book to cover the cost, you drop to 0 hit points. Until you finish 1d6 long rest, you are incapable of casting the lost spells, even if you find them on a scroll or in another spellbook. After you finish the required number of rests, the spells reappear in the spellbook, and once you use this reaction, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. What this is basically saying is if we get hit by, let's say, a dragon's breath, by an ancient dragon, and we're about to take 135,000 points of damage or what have you, we can prevent all of that damage and save ourselves by rolling 3d6, and our spellbook is temporarily going to lose some spells for a few days. I think I could handle that, definitely. And this also goes to show how important it is to collect all of those spells into the spellbook. So again, if you're going to play this character, be sure that you're working with your dungeon master, and hopefully they will provide you with ways to acquire an spells or learning new spells or finding spell books or things like that, because once you get to this ability, this isn't a lifesaver right here. This will save your character's life, and it's with minimal setback. Yeah, you're not going to remember a few of those spells, but you can choose them. You throw out a bunch of the cruddy ones that you don't even like, but all in all, you're saved. You're going to get those back in a few days. This is a fantastic ability to round out the Order of Scribes. So that is the Order of Scribes Wizard with a 2-level dip in Cleric. And I really like this thematically for a Thunder or a Lightning type of a build. And I think that 2-level dip in a Cleric really sets this character where it needs to be. So I would definitely encourage that, to get that Channel Divinity, to be able to just every once in a while drop a ball of Thunder or a ball of Lightning and just have max damage and just wreak havoc to everything that's around you. I think it's a lot of fun. And the fact of being able to change damage types to whatever you have in your spellbook, it's not the most powerful ability, but it is really cool to do. If you have magic missiles that are streaming through and cause thunder damage, and you have fireballs that are turned into thunder or lightning, you put up a wall of bludgeoning damage or something like that, where maybe it's like a bunch of hammers or something that hits everybody in the range. That would just, it just seems like a lot of fun to me. And that manifest mind, where you can cast your spells through a miniature idol of your god like Thor or whoever else, that's the icing on the cake. So that's all I have for you today. What did you think of this character build? Is this something that you'd like to play? And if so, how would you build this character differently? I'm looking forward to your comments, and hopefully you enjoyed how we came together with this Order of Scribes Wizard. Thank you very much for watching, and on to the next.